Hi everyone. So we have our first panel here. Prajakta will be moderating the session. Over to you, Prajakta.
Hello, everyone. We are running a little bit late, so I'm going to directly get into it. Today's topic is future of work that works for women, right? And to talk about this, we have Annie Dubey. She is the Consul General for Canada in Mumbai, and she's been working with the International Trade and Affairs Department in Canada since 2003. She has worked in South Korea, Switzerland, India, so she's going to bring all that experience to us today. We have Abhishek Parikh. He's the CEO of Atal Incubation Center at Banasthali Vidyapith, and he's the incubator that he runs. It focuses on women, and some of you already know about what he does. We have Seema Chaturvedi. She's the founder and managing partner at AWE Funds. This fund specifically focuses on women-led businesses as well. And she's been an entrepreneur, an investment banker, an investor, and has been doing groundbreaking initiatives for women entrepreneurs. We have Urvashi Devidayal. She's the India lead for Sankalp Forum, which is an initiative that IntelliCap has started to sort of make our future more inclusive and global development more inclusive. She's also lived in New York, Mumbai, London, and interestingly, Oroville. So we have very interesting perspectives today on this panel. Without further ado, I'm going to get into the questions. The agenda for this panel is firstly, we'll talk a little bit about what future of work means. Then we'll get into what it means for women. Then we get into how COVID changes things. And then hopefully all of us can take back some actionable items from today's panel. So I'm going to ask the first question, and all panelists are welcome to answer all questions, of course. And I might just direct some of the questions directly to some panelists, but others are also welcome to add in. Abhishek, I'm going to start with you. If you were to name three key characteristics of future of work, what would those be, and how do you view future of work at large? Abhishek?
Uh, Sorry, Prajakta. I think
I
so.
think he's dropped
Abhishek.
out. No worries. No worries. We can open that to any of you. Urvashi,
Sure.
Ani, Seema, any of you.
Okay,
Happy to jump in.
go ahead.
Future of work, I think that there's no one size fits all really, and where you are in the world will have an impact. COVID will make us realize that technology is way more important than it used to be in some contexts, including the bandwidth you have at home or the setup you have at home. But also parents have a much harder time working from home at this point because kids are all over the place. And I'm not saying women or men, because in Canada, my husband is with the children at home in Canada, not here in Mumbai, and he's having a hard time with the children. I'm good here in Mumbai. So, so the future of work, there's going to be a need for more flexibility as well in terms of hours of work, I believe, so that we can still deliver the hours we need to deliver every week, but in maybe in a different format than the usual 9 to 5. Well, maybe here it's 11 to 8, Indian time. But also, I think that women will need to take more of their space and impose equal share of the house chores. That would be definitely needed if we want to give a fair chance to women to succeed.
Right, right. Urvashi or Seema, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, so the one thing that the world was before pre-COVID, where we were geared towards and where we were going was the emphasis on collaboration. And schools and colleges were teaching how, and there were a lot of books written on how school taught you that collaboration was equal to cheating, and yet college and real world taught you that collaboration was and teamwork were one of your most important traits, right? What COVID has done, and before this session started, as we were speaking, it has made us realize that we need to all have a basic level of skill set and be able to kind of dance in some manner on our own, should that collaborative environment not be made available to us. And while this forum like AirMate is great, there are certain things that we have to be self-equipped to do. So there is a need for also being a little more independent. And so the future of work would be as the enabling technologies catch up, are we going to that allow for that virtual collaboration till that catch up becomes perfect as it was in a analogous environment? I think it's going to require us to be a little more independent than we were in the past.
Right, right. Urvashi?
I'll take that on. So first of all, just thank you for sort of having me on the panel, and I apologize for my camera not working. And it was working till 5 minutes before the panel started. But I think we can deep dive into what this brings up as challenges of working from home and challenges, especially for women, that will come up. But really, in the three characteristics, and I'll speak from the perspective of being part of a knowledge-based industry. So I work in the development sector, consulting work, and really it is not just work from home, but it's going to be work from anywhere, which is actually very a positive thing. We do sort of, we're looking at it through the COVID lens right now, but if we expand that out a little bit more, it's going to be work from anywhere. So that's going to be an advantage for women. Uh, Also going to look at more hyper-local co-working spaces. So working from home may be something that we are in a lockdown, so we have to do it. But less travel and less commute, more hyper-local workspaces are going to come up. And just in terms of the way the work is structured, it's really going to be on flexi everything, right? So a lot more project-based work, a lot more task-based work. Um, and very importantly, knowing your strongest skill set is going to be more and more essential. So finding how to sort of define that is going to be essential.
Right, right. So we have flexibility, we have technology, we have labor force, household care work participation. We have basic level of skill sets that all of us need to build on and maintain. We have, the fact that it's become a lot more independent, and we have hyper local co-working. I really like that term, Urvashi. I think these are some of the themes that have come out. Abhishek, do you have anything to add in this about what could future of work look like?
So I think there are three things which companies, enterprises have to look at. One, a kind of augmented working environment where you are based in the office, but with the help of technology, you cut down on a lot of other things. Where you use technology for not traveling, maybe for meetings, all those things. So that is kind of augmented working. The second thing which the companies can look at is a kind of hybrid working, where they
We lost you, Abhishek. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. So until we have Abhishek back, I think I'll move on to the next question. Do you do, in your personal opinions, right, and from your experience as well, do you think women have different expectations or needs from the workplaces that have been existing, let's say pre-COVID, because it's a quite a defining moment for everyone, I think. I think so. Question would be, do you think it was different? Do you think they have, and in going forward will have different needs from the workplaces? And if yes, what are those differences in what women seek and other genders? I wouldn't even say women and men. We need to increase the spectrum of how we look at gender in our country, especially. So all genders, so transgenders and other non-binaries, etc.
Well, I can take this. In terms of were there different expectations, the question is really, was anybody recognizing that they even had different expectations? So yes, there were unstated different expectations, but nobody was really paying attention to that. And what COVID has done is made people realize, okay, for the first time, and we've had a lot of women entrepreneurs come and say to us, this is not so bad actually. My husband's realizing that, or my boss is realizing very importantly, that what can be done if I'm allowed to work at my own pace. And so expectations were unstated and would have been great to say, give me flexibility, guys. I'll get the work done. Just allow me to do it at my and I'll meet your deadline. But unfortunately, the brick and mortar world did not allow for it, which required you to be in person 9 to 5, which was usually in conflict with your family expectations many times. So yes, I think going forward across the gender spectrum as well, absolute certain jobs in fact are now looking and saying we can actually, certain professions like say consulting are saying we can actually save a lot of travel costs. So certain professions which are not high touch will absolutely require a change in how they get executed. And I think this is our time for women to say this is a real big opportunity. I always say, never let, not just me, Churchill said it early, before a few years before me. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. So I think as women, we should rally this as a defining moment to say, we need our pound of flesh or our weight in this ecosystem, because this is become a leveler for us, and technology, if made available to women, can be a game changer.
Right.
I think it comes down also to mindset. To me, having a career is important, and I've always been told by my father to never be dependent on a man. But then, for some other women, a job is a hobby, and so it depends on your own level of ambition and what you want to achieve. And it comes down to really having a hard look at your own values and what matters for you, because there's nothing wrong with being a homemaker, being a mother, being a wife, like everything. You can have multiple identities all of a sudden, right? You can cover different roles in your life. But what is the ranking for your job there versus the other parts, and how do you want to play with it? So expectation from the workplace, I think it's more what women are willing to contribute to the workplace, because often the family expectations and the society expectation in some countries versus others mean that even if the woman shows up with as much ambition as she wants to have, the society puts a lot of obstacles. But I would encourage women to just remove these obstacles from their mind, free their mind from all these obstacles, and start thinking more in a more free way of doing things, because what's the worst that can happen really at this point?
Right, right. No, I absolutely agree with your point about it being a two-way process. As much as, because usually when you talk about, how do we sort of empower women in the traditional context, it comes down to how do we do it with other people. I think women also have to at some point, say that okay, I'm just going to not care, or something like that. Slightly controversial, but Urvashi, yes.
Great. Thanks. I think I want to take a slightly different perspective of this than, when I really look at what the women, the expectation from the workplace is that the one thing that we found is that communities make a really big difference. So women tend to value who they work with and, who they're working for and who they're working with. And you see this in a very everyday example, right? I mean, like lunch has more of an importance for, at least in the Indian workspace. You're sitting together. It's definitely there for men also, but you see the work communities become a little bit more, um, draw women to the workplace, and they also sort of keep them there, right? I mean, you'll see the women participating more in the festival, whether it's like a Diwali or a Christmas, and setting up the office space. And so I think, in terms of the expectation that women have from a workplace, the community angle of it is far stronger than I would say in my male colleagues. And I think that I would say this from a perspective of where now the challenge for us is how do we create these communities where you'll be working from different places, and that as someone looking at it from a management perspective, that's where the challenge lies for us. So I mean, that's my expectation where I see it changes with women. I mean, and that has to be really focused on to make sure that women feel a part of the workplace and sort of can contribute more to it. Um, and I mean, I'll have to say this because, and it's great to be on a panel with such amazing women and gentlemen also. But women role models and female leaders are going to be even more important. It's going to be more important for them to be more visible and even more so accessible, uh, for women. So leave it at that. But that's my point.
Right, right. I think the whole aspect of pay it forward is extremely important. I think all of you, and all of us, in fact, need to mentor younger women to sort of come up in offices, at home. I think in every aspect. I think it's absolutely right. And co-working has shifted. Is something you said. Do we have Abhishek here? No, I think he's dropped out. I'm going to move on then. So, we've talked a little bit about, what is it that in the future workplace looks like. I'm going to take one audience question because it seems a little, otherwise we'll run out of time if we do it in the end. So my question is, this is Karan Dalvi. He's a research scholar at Punjab University. He says, my question is regarding the current scenario of COVID-19, which has encouraged a work from home culture. However, this assumes that working from home is more comfortable a working environment than office for most, especially in the case of women. Would you say that this is necessarily true, or do we need to take other aspects into considerations about being at home? Is what he means, especially for women. Thank you. So that's should we answer that until we get Abhishek back?
I'm not sure there's one simple answer because everybody has different circumstances. People may live in a multi-generational household. There may be like multiple other factors that mean that they will be pulled one way or another. And because you're home, you can take care of that. It's going to be only a few minutes. So there's a lot of distractions around instead of being fully concentrated and delivering on what you have to deliver from a work perspective. I've seen some women in my team really thriving working from home and some others having a really hard time, depending on their family obligation most of the time and the setup they have from home. I don't think that work from home is possible for everybody. Right now, I can do it because I ship my kids to Canada. Otherwise, I would not be able to do it. I cannot concentrate. There's a bit of noise. It doesn't work for me personally. I prefer the context of an office. But overall, I think that the challenge also is not everybody has the right setup at home or the right bandwidth, like Abhishek right now, who cannot really connect properly. And there's challenges in being able to have the proper tools and the proper time to concentrate in delivering the work we want to do.
Right.
Well, to add to Annie, it is clear, and I'm hoping that this is sensitizing men to the extraordinary burden that women face in any normal circumstance, but made worse because of COVID, because everybody's home. And I've actually written an op-ed on the issue that the burden of the pandemic is not gender neutral. And even the United Nations Secretary General has called this to be the most significant negative fallout of this pandemic after the health crisis itself. So, there can be something done to sensitize men or even just older relatives, as Annie talked about, in a multi-generational household, to the challenges that women have to face to be able to balance and seem sane after having so many balls up in the air. And really, there's no other options other than the younger men stepping in or even asking their fathers to step in and say, what used to be cannot sustain. It's just not sustainable. Something will give. And it's usually has been, sadly, the sanity of the woman, which has never really been talked about. And we now are hearing of a lot of that mental stress. And thankfully, there is a spotlight being shined upon the mental issues that are coming out of this crisis, but also in general. So, there's multiple layers to this conversation. But can it be done? Yes, and it's something that I've personally done myself with when my kids were little. Does it take a lot of discipline? Absolutely. It takes more discipline. It's simpler to just leave your household behind, get in a car, and drive to work. It's a different matter when you know that your kids are outside and you gotta food needs to be made or whatever. So it does take a lot of recognition of equal participation when everybody's in the household. Also, I want to sensitize the audience and everybody to the fact that this is an unusual circumstance. Um, and when the kids go back to school, hopefully soon, uh, could this still be an option? Because that circumstance would be very different. The household would be quieter, hopefully.
Right.
So, this is a bit of a bubble, and hopefully it'll change very quickly. But I think it really comes down to having a conversation with your own family of saying, I want to pursue it, and look, you feel it as much as I do, and I think sensitizing men now would be a great idea, and especially your the younger men or the younger daughters asking their fathers, because I know that the fathers respond rather well when they're being asked something from the daughters. So playing upon all those human relations is very important.
That was actually my next question. In fact, what are those individual actions and practical tips, in a sense, that all of us deploy at our household that we can share with the audience today, so that they can, take a lead or sort of take something home? And I think Seema has actually begun very beautifully by stating those. Annie, you want to tell us some of your hacks?
Oh, you just have to marry right. Be clear from the beginning with your husband that your career is the priority, not his. And my husband is Indian, just so you know, so I understand the challenges of the Indian context with Indian in-laws and family expectation. This is one thing, having the support of your spouse. Yeah, my husband started cooking and cleaning the kitchen early on in our marriage. He realized that, and he works from home. I'm not the one usually working from home. So we need to be really willing to stop putting a gender on a task, and it has to be what is the most effective way, where's the greatest value in one person doing this or that. And so we should go with where we can contribute best. I'm not the motherly type, so why would I be at home going crazy with the kids? I would not help my kids either. So I have less time with the kids, but better quality, and everybody's better after it. In terms of tips that work in the workplace, I think that one thing that made a big difference in Canada back in the days was the deployment of childcare at a decent price, so that Canadian women could just have childcare options for their children and go back to work and re-enter the workforce. But another thing that made a big difference in terms of policy was not maternal leave, but parental leave, so that fathers would take almost as much leave as the mother, so that the employer is at the point where there's no difference, hire a man or a woman, because both have the parental leave, which makes a big difference in the workplace, because now you don't look at the woman as a burden on your organization, but rather as another employee, regardless of the gender.
Yeah. So we have, equal participation at home, tinkering with traditional gender roles. I think that's very important. And it's also something, I think, what I try to deploy is that if I see another couple or somebody else, trying something new, I am always trying to not be judgmental about their ways. I think all of us need to do things in our own lives, but also let others be and let them, think about what works for them for themselves. Urvashi?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, look, I hadn't really thought about practical tips and the suggestions I can give, but I think one of the concerns that I've really had, and I think this is some of the questions that you asked us, is that is flexi work from home, is it going to help or harm women, right? And I really wanted to bring up this because it's very true for a large part of young Indian women, right? And for years we fought and we've campaigned and done advocacy work so that they could actually leave the home to go out to a workplace, and that has created a sea change in the way women have viewed themselves outside of the workplace, right? When they've interacted with people, their peers, they've actually seen their value in the workplace. They've met people outside of their own communities. That has really changed a lot of the sort of the voice that they have at home, to say. Working from home now, while it is an advantage to some, it is now going to take us back a few steps by saying that now, you can work from home, you can earn your living here, you can use your education, you can create value. So stay at home. And those sort of almost those traditional values we have of not allowing the girl out of the house um, are almost being reinforced. And that for me creates a lot of fear. So I'm not going to go into domestic violence and gender violence and all of that. So I'll leave that bit of it out. But in terms of the voice of the woman, right? I mean, it is not every woman in India has had that voice to have that conversation with that family, or demand these things or ask of these things. And it's when they've stepped out where they have really been able to learn that there are different viewpoints. So I mean, for me, this flexi work homes thing has really made me think really about the different communities that exist in India. And while all of us who are on Zoom calls and air meets and things like this have a very different accessibility, it's not true for the rest of the country. And we need to be very aware of that, and we need to be very aware of that as we build out workplaces that are meant to be inclusive. So for all genders, but especially for the young women that are just entering the workspace for us. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I think what you said, right? I think it's a very important point to think about that in a household. When there is a smartphone, it's usually with the husband, or in a lower income household, I would say it's usually with the husband. Or if there is a house laptop or a house computer, then the boy of the house has access to it a lot more than. And we saw this in not even a
Right.
rural part. We were working in a lower income area in Chennai, and even in Chennai, the girls were complaining that, my brother gets access to the laptop and therefore I'm not being able to do what you've asked me to do. So I think these are absolutely real challenges. And thank you, Urvashi, for bringing it up.
Yeah, and
Abhishek, sorry, yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say really quickly, I mean, a lot of this comes out of very, very good, protective families where we realize that public safety is a big challenge for women to leave the house. So it's not coming out of a way of control, also coming out of a way of concern. So, but that does create different challenges. So I'll stop there and let Abhishek hopefully speak a little bit now.
Yeah.
No, we do have time, Urvashi, so don't worry about it. Abhishek, if you have network, maybe you can tell us a little bit about today's topic.
Yeah, so I think I'm the odd man out, and a man is speaking about women. So the artificial intelligence is at its best. It's trying to stop me every time I try to speak. But I'll try to put on hold this artificial intelligence for time. So can you please please ask me something? I think I'm missing a
Yes,
lot of things in
yes,
between. Yeah.
absolutely. So I think what we would, we were the topic that we were on right now, is what are the micro changes, positive micro changes that you can make in your own life, personally, professionally, at work and at home, both, to make future of work more accessible for women.
Right.
And we could maybe talk from your experience or working with women entrepreneurs or your personal experience. If you could give us some tips or some life hacks, that would be amazing.
Right. I think I feel it's a good chance for companies to come out for some gender specific policies. I'm not talking about only women. I think gender specific means for both the genders. Because I think for companies, one size fits all doesn't work. So you have to come out with something specific which can be implemented for both the genders. Because for so many years we have never been able to realize that work from home is possible. But now this last 2 months everyone is knocked out of this COVID thing, and people have realized suddenly across the streams that work from home is possible, and there are process and policies and procedures being created in 2 months, which otherwise would have taken years and years for companies to come out with. So we should use these times to understand and deliver policies, the HR policies, which caters to women or males, and maybe create policies which possibly helps both the genders. I come from a university which has more than 70% staff as females, and the faculties, professors here, we have completely free culture. So women can go back to their home because it's a residential university. So all faculties are based on the campus. So it's free for all. I mean, people can come to college. They can go back to manage their kids. They can go back to have lunch with their family. Come back again for delivering a lecture. Again go back. So you don't have to stick to the to the office for a fixed number of hours. And I think that delivers a lot of productivity for women because
Abhishek, we lost you for a moment. Okay.
Prajakta,
I think,
I just add to that. There was an interest, and not to get into, and not to make this political, so please don't get me wrong. But there was a very interesting article in New York Times. I want to say about almost 10 months or a year ago, or maybe longer, which talked about why men want to have a wife like Melania and a daughter like Ivanka. And it was interesting in that kind of, I wanted to emphasize my point on how they talked about the daughter being seen as somebody who was promoting a career and was seen as the voice of a career woman, while the wife still had that traditional role. And I want to, and Urvashi made a good, very interesting point. It does, in my opinion, cut both ways. So it's not, I mean, you can't generalize one way or the other. She great that she sensitized us to the negative fallout of what can happen, which can turn back the clock on the women's movement, if you will, of saying, let me go to work and take care of and draw a clean delineation, because that does allow the woman to shift. But the best thing we can be doing right now is for the sons, for the mothers to be talking to the sons, and for the daughters to be talking to the fathers, to say, Dad, you got to step in, and there's really no reason why you should not be doing laundry or you should not be cooking a meal. And for the mothers to be telling the sons, son, you better go and vacuum or wipe out the table or whatever. So I think that practical advice needs to begin at home.
absolutely. Abhishek is, oh, come back, and AI is really strong. I think technology is really, it's the matrix now.
A projector, if I may. There's one thing when I was a few years younger in the department, one thing that benefited me most was the unexpected encounter, an elevator ride with the deputy minister, or running into a senior manager, an executive somewhere, where you can just have a minute or two pitching an idea and getting on their radar, because it's a department of 10,000 people I work in. So, having FaceTime with these people when you're junior is kind of difficult. So I can imagine nowadays more junior women in the organization having that type of FaceTime working from home is very difficult, because you cannot just have an unexpected encounter. It's all planned right now, right? So you make an appointment, you connect with the person, like nobody just calls. You have to WhatsApp the person, or you have a label type of thing. So I find that this is what I'm missing the most in the past 2 months, of these unexpected encounters. Like right now in this conference, there's probably 2-3 women I would love to have discussions with, and probably more, but like you see the fire in their belly, and they want to move really fast, and they have great ideas, but then you don't have this context where, so working from home has its own challenges, and I don't think you can have only one way or another. I think there may need to have a hybrid approach to being more effective at our work.
Yeah, and the worry is, like 2 days back, Shopify has announced that they are getting rid of their physical office spaces altogether, right? So the worry is you're going to see businesses wanting to obviously capitalize on this to cut costs, which is, understandable. But that might, unless it's proven, it's it's always the thing of, okay, we implement something and then we realize, oh, it's not good for women, and then it's too late. So the worry is that shouldn't happen this time. And thank you, Urvashi, for giving us the cautionary tale. Anybody wants to weigh in on this? Is there anything else? Because I think Abhishek has dropped out again.
Well, Shopify is a Canadian company, just saying. But I think Google and Twitter have the same approach in terms of working from home from this time forward.
Yes. Okay. So I think we are in the last 1 minute of this conversation. We don't really, I'm just going to look for some audience questions in the meanwhile. And if there is anybody in the audience who wants to still send in a question, we have about next 3 minutes that we can spend on audience questions. Just going to scroll through. Give me a second.
I found that one way, while you're looking at question, I found one way that was making a difference is a mentorship program for women. Like sponsoring women in an organization, not just mentoring, but really sponsoring them. You identify the talent, the potential, and you help them move forward in the organization. And I find this is more difficult from a distance as well, but there's a lot of talent out there, and I am hoping for a stronger meritocracy as we move forward, not just well, I'm the son and I was born in that type of family, in that type of economic class, and as such, I have the access to whatever position. I know that
Right.
pure meritocracy is not there anywhere in the world, but we can hope.
Okay, great. So yes, Shrima, please.
No, I just wanted to reemphasize a thing that Annie mentioned and just call it out, and especially given, so if you're, kind of migrating now to what advice we might have for women, I think with the caution that Urvashi's sensitized us to, and I absolutely agree with Annie on the need for role models and the need for mentoring, but reiterating the need for networking, and don't depend on it to be by happenstance or by chance, but make proactive measures to go out and say, what other means will I have of networking? Because women are notoriously under networked, and we need to find ways. And it's interesting because as the gender, we are the more community oriented, as I think Urvashi pointed out. But we need to make more of a conscious effort to put that on our personal agendas and make that a conscious effort. So I want to emphasize that for everybody.
Absolutely. I think that's a very important point, that I think conscious effort is what we're going to need on all our paths. It could be for your own self. I think it could be for the people around you, the women around you, your family members. It could be your boss. It could be your colleague. It could be somebody that is reporting to you. I think all of us, men, women, are going to have to make very conscious choices to say that, okay, we want the future of work to be a lot more inclusive than it used to be, because we live in this new world today. And I think on that note, Urvashi, unless you have something to say as the last words, because
if we have just one last thought I had, since we are speaking to an audience of women entrepreneurs, if I understand that correctly, I'd really say that, when you're looking, this is really a very, very incredible opportunity to look at your business models and look at innovative ways for women to work from home. So as much as I've been cautionary about that, the best people to sort of create models that will be sort of pioneers in this space will be women entrepreneurs. So when you are build it out from the start, don't build it out as an afterthought, which a lot of us have to do right now. So yeah, I would just leave that to say that this is an incredible opportunity for women entrepreneurs to really leverage and understand this space better.
Thank you, Urvashi. Thank you so much. In fact, to all our panelists, I'm so sorry Abhishek could not, because we also need men in this just as much as women, and men also have to take that, conscious effort to sort of do this. But we didn't have him today. Thank you, Annie. Thank you so much, Seema. Thank you so much, Urvashi, for sparing the time to be with us and give us real practical advice, and thank you, audience, for being so patient. And please tune in to the next events as well. And see you around. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks to
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.